So you're thinking about jumping into one of the most in-demand fields in tech today. Awesome. You're in exactly the right place. We are about to lay out a complete, step-by-step roadmap to building a career in DevOps. Okay, let's get right into it.
First things first, why should you even take this journey? Well, let's just cut to the chase and talk numbers. At the top end, a DevOps architect can pull in over $250,000 a year. That's the kind of potential we're talking about, and we're going to map out how you can get there.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the why, the opportunity itself. Then we'll get into the DevOps mindset, cover the essential first steps, dive into the tools for building modern systems, talk about scaling it all with the cloud, and wrap up with what your actual career path can look like.
So, just how big of an opportunity are we talking about here? Get this. More than 75% of IT companies are actively adopting DevOps practices right now. This isn't some passing trend. It's become the industry standard. And that means there's a huge, huge demand for people with these skills. But before we even touch a single tool, we've got to understand the terrain. So what even is DevOps? It is so important to get this right from the start. It is way more than just a list of software you need to learn. It's a whole new way of thinking.
See, at its core, DevOps is all about culture. The whole point is to tear down those invisible walls, the silos that have traditionally separated the people who write the code, the developers, from the people who keep it running, the operations teams. It's all about communication, collaboration, and just working together to get things done better and faster.
So what does that look like as an actual job? Well, a DevOps engineer is the person who makes all this happen. They're the bridge connecting the dev and ops worlds. They're the ones automating everything in sight, building out those release pipelines, managing the cloud infrastructure, and setting up all the monitoring tools to make sure everything runs smoothly and securely.
All right, let's get practical. You're ready to start this journey. So what do you need to pack in your bag? This is all about the absolute non-negotiable fundamentals, the stuff you have to know before you even think about the cool, fancy tools. And look, this journey is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take time, probably around 12 to 18 months of real dedicated learning. But the path makes sense. You start with a solid foundation, and each new skill builds directly on top of the last one, taking you from the basics all the way to the most advanced tools. And when I say fundamentals, I mean these are non-negotiable. You absolutely have to get comfortable working in the Linux command line. You need to understand the basics of how the internet works, networking, and you've got to be able to write scripts to automate things. Python is highly recommended for that. Seriously, do not skip this part. Okay, once you've got that foundation poured and set, it's time for the fun part, actually building stuff. Now we get to look at the core tool chain that's used to build, package, and deploy pretty much all modern software today. And the very first tool in that chain, it's Git. I really can't say this enough. Learning Git is not optional. It is the backbone of modern software development. It's how teams work together on code, track every single change, and it's what makes all the cool automation possible down the line. Next up, we have this game-changing idea called containerization, and the king of that world is Docker. You know that age-old developer excuse, well, it worked on my machine? Yeah, Docker basically solves that problem for good by neatly packaging up an application and everything it needs to run into one little portable box. So, how does that magic work? Well, it all starts with a simple text file called a Docker file. Think of it like a recipe. It lists all the ingredients, the base system, your code, any dependencies, and the instructions for how to put it all together and turn it on. It's simple, powerful, and totally repeatable. Okay, so Docker is amazing for one container, but what happens when your application needs hundreds or even thousands of them? Trying to manage that by hand would be a nightmare. You need a manager, a conductor for your container orchestra, and that conductor is Kubernetes. It's the undisputed industry standard for managing containers at scale. Now we get to another huge shift in thinking. The old imperative way was like giving someone turn-by-turn driving directions. Turn left, go to blocks, turn right. It's slow and easy to mess up. The new declarative way is like just giving them the destination address and letting the GPS figure out the best route. You just say what you want, and the tool makes it happen.
This declarative approach has a name, Infrastructure as Code, or IAC. And the biggest name in this space, the tool you'll hear about everywhere, is Terraform. It lets you define your entire cloud setup, your servers, databases, networks, everything in simple code files. It's repeatable, consistent, and a total game changer.
So where does all this amazing code-defined infrastructure actually live?
Well, you guessed it, in the cloud. And that brings us to the giant platforms where you're going to be putting all these new DevOps skills to work.
The cloud world is really dominated by three huge players. You've got AWS, the market leader with a dizzying number of services. Then there's Azure, which is an absolute powerhouse in the corporate and enterprise world. And you have GCP, which is famous for its strengths in data analytics and Kubernetes. Honestly, the best advice is to just pick one and go deep. Don't try to learn them all at once.
Whew, okay. We've covered the mindset, the foundations, the tools, the platforms. Now let's bring it all home. Let's talk about what the destination actually looks like. What is your career progression? And what are the rewards for making this journey? And here we are right back where we started, the payoff. The financial growth here is really significant. You can start strong as a junior, move into a very comfortable six-figure salary at the mid-level, and eventually work your way up to that top-tier senior or architect level we saw at the very beginning.
And you know, DevOps engineer isn't the only destination on this map. Having these skills opens up all kinds of doors to cool specializations. You could become a site reliability engineer, focusing on making systems incredibly reliable, or a DevSecOps engineer, weaving security into every step of the process.
If you take away just one thing from all of this, please let it be this quote. It is so easy to get lost in the sea of tools, but it's not about knowing every single one. It's about understanding the why. It's about that mindset of always learning and always improving. The tools will change, but that philosophy, that's what lasts.
So to wrap it all up, here are your marching orders. Start with the fundamentals. Master Linux. Get your hands dirty and build real projects. Don't just get stuck watching tutorials. And always, always, try to understand why you're using a tool, not just how to type the commands. That's what separates a real engineer from a technician.
So there you have it. You have a detailed map for a career that's both incredibly challenging and incredibly rewarding. The path is clear, the opportunities are massive. The only real question left is the one you see on your screen. Your journey starts right now. So, what are you going to build first?